Well, it's no secret that if it bleeds, it leads. And we all know that negative news gets way more clicks than positive stories. That is even evident here on YouTube, where channels talking about the market crashing do a whole lot better in total view count than channels like this one who try and educate people about how to become homeowners and how to grow net worth over time through the tried and true method of owning real estate and never selling it. But it's not necessarily that the media is outright lying to you. They would probably never knowingly do that. But they do like to pick and choose the people that they interview and the materials that they like to study so that they can tell the story that they think will get the most amount of clicks on the internet or eyeballs tuning in to the evening news. Now, personally, I do not like it when people use the word narrative because I think it's a word that people like to use to describe the opposite opinion of their own without fully having to understand that other person's position. And I also think people only use the word narrative to try and discredit someone else's talking points, and that they never actually acknowledge that their own talking points could also be easily construed as a narrative. After all, the definition of narrative is a spoken or written account connected to events, meaning that every time anyone talks about something that happened from anyone's point of view, that is essentially a narrative. And rather than using that term, people should probably use other words like persuade, convince, or even coerce. But in today's video, I'm going to share with you a real life account or narrative. Nice. Of how a friend of mine was witness to how the media chooses stories that they want to show you, that keep you thinking negatively. And in this particular case, it involves my industry of Canadian real estate. But really quickly before I do, I would love to ask you to subscribe to the channel if you would like to stay up to date on said Canadian real estate, with a particular focus here on my market of the Lower Mainland in British Columbia. And since this particular video is a topic that I think should reach all Canadians, if you would be so kind as to click the like button, YouTube will automatically then send this video out to other fellow Canucks just like you, so they can then better understand the negativity that is flooding into their heads on an everyday basis. And ideally, that will cause more of your fellow countrymen to shut off their TVs and, I don't know, maybe go outside and enjoy life. So thank you so much for that. And now on to my narrative of the narrative of negative narratives nestled in our nation's news. Nice alliteration. And this all started with my friend Tom's story on a recent episode of our podcast called The Tom Story Show. Now, I don't know why Tom gets his name in the show and I don't, but that's besides the point. Let me set this clip up for you. We were simply talking about the market as we do every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, both here on YouTube and podcast apps everywhere. Tom and I had Pre-Condo on as a guest, aka Jordan Skrinko. And then Tom filled us in on a call that he had received from a mainstream media reporter just that week. And I will acknowledge that, yes, I have edited this clip down for the sake of this video. So if you'd like to see the full discussion, you can go ahead and check out our podcast channel. But for now, let me just play Tom Story's story, or Tom Story's narrative.
Last week, I had a reporter call me and he was just like taking quotes for a story that was coming out. And it was basically based on how quick the market had rebounded, at least so far, right? It's still early days here of knowing how long this is going to go. What's the summer going to look like? And he was basically like, you know, I don't know what you can tell me that will make me believe this makes sense. And I was like, I hear you, man. Like, other than the fact that inventory is historically low, I get it. Like, rates haven't dropped. Sure, there's more confidence because Bank of Canada held. And he's like, we've looked at all the economist models and none of them can explain it either. Okay, well, you know, do you have any clients that that got help from Bank of Mom and Dad? And I said, yeah, we have lots. He's like, well, any of them talk to us? And I called 5 of them. None of them were like, no, I don't want to have my name printed, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, well, now let's shift the story. And how about people that didn't have help that have given up? Or are they willing to talk? And I reached out to a few, like, and everyone's like, doesn't want to get their name printed, right? And I was like, I'll post on Instagram and see if I can help you as well. But I was like, do you want to talk to anyone that didn't have help, that figured out a way to get into the market? Do you want to talk to them? And he was like, no, not really.
Crazy, right? But hey, that is exactly what happens. The news wanted to write an article about people struggling to have to rely on their parents to buy their first property. But when that unfortunately didn't work out for them, They then wanted to hear from people who were in an even worse spot and had just given up on real estate altogether. And then when Tom suggested a positive spin on how hardworking young Canadians, maybe like yourself, were able to actually make it work and buy real estate and finally make that dream of owning their first property a reality, well, unfortunately, the reporter was just simply not interested in covering that topic. And that is how they end up making you think that not only the market is always going to crash, but that in fact you will always struggle and you will never be able to afford a home. So I guess you may as well just give up now, because that narrative seems to be what sells newspapers, if newspapers are still a thing anymore. So let me know what you think about this method of picking which stories to run on the news, and better yet, maybe help me out in the comments below about your amazing story about how you got into the market the first time, or maybe how happy you are that you got into the market when you did. And remember that, well, if you aren't in the market, but you would like to find out how you can make homeownership a reality, well, you can book a call with me using the link in the description below right now at a time that works best for you. Thanks for sharing your narrative in the comments. Subscribe, click the like button, and we'll see you in a couple of days.